Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the All-Star AD on the Educational AD podcast. We'll be right back with this week's All-Star, but first we want to give a shout out to our podcast partners, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, the Florida Coaches Coalition, the Global Community of Women in High School Sports, and We Coach. These are four great organizations. You should add them to your network. And now, don't hit that fast forward button. Take the next 3 minutes. Listen to the messages from our podcast sponsors. As an athletic director, you cannot find better products to have for your school, your coaches, and your teams. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Snap Mobile for their support. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their entire suite of platforms designed to help you as an athletic director do your job better. SnapRaise is their fundraising platform. We used it at our school with tremendous success, and so can you. They even have a program where you can get your funding before you actually start your fundraiser. I don't think anyone else offers that. Go to snapraise.com for more information. That's snapraise.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school is a Huddle school, and our coaches just love the smart cameras, the mobile apps. Of course, they love the analytics, but there's so much more. Huddle is going to provide your school with a professional-grade solution to the challenges that you face. At Huddle, we believe in sports, and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all your sports or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their great products. When you're ready to buy, use this link, vitalsignswalloffame.com/Jake, and you'll get 5% off. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. They're going to show you how to set up and sell your tickets online for all your events, not just athletics, but things like school dances, school plays, concerts, even graduation. And every step of the way, you'll have a dedicated client success manager providing hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com and get started today. Simple and easy online ticketing. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor scoring tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule a live web demo, and see their score tables and their scoreboards in action. They not only generate income for your department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Get started today. We want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to gipper.com and start creating world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. Mention our podcast and get 10% off. The code is ADPOD10. Go to gipper.com, create custom content for your school's social media channel. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic surveys are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire program. ADs typically only hear back from 2%, the frustrated student athlete or a squeaky wheel parent. And we need to hear back from them so we can affect positive change in our program. But we also need to hear back from the 98% that really love and support our program. And that's where Athletic Surveys comes in. They can create a custom survey to allow you to take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. So go to athleticsurveys.com. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to another segment of All-Star AD on the Educational AD podcast. Our guest today is Evanitta Omensetter. She is the vice principal and athletic director at Tampa's HB Plant High School. She's been on the podcast a number of times. Does a great job at her school and with the FIAAA. Evanitta, welcome back. And what do you have for our listeners today on All-Star AD?
So today I want to kind of talk about building relationships. Um, I've talked about, I think I've talked about organizational skills, which was something that I'm good at. I've talked about taking care, self-care, which is something that I'm not good at. So in order to get better, like I kind of want to talk about what I'm not good at, right? So that I can get better at it. And hopefully somebody is, an AD out there is kind of having a little bit of the same struggles or like, in comparing those notes, so to speak, right? Um, I'm not a people person, right? So building those relationships is hard for me. Um, and in order for me to build an army, I have to build those relationships. Um, I am pretty stringent in how I do things, so people see me kind of as as the hammer because I follow the rules. I'm gonna hold you to the rule. But there's a standard, right? So I kind of set this imaginary standard that we all have to meet. Um, and sometimes people just don't meet that standard, um, and I struggle with that. So building relationship with people is like one of the other things that I'm working at, right? All coaches are different. They are, I think of them as my team. When I was coaching, I think about, okay, here are all of these, I coach volleyball. So here are all of these volleyball girls, how they're all different. How do I get them to mesh together so that we can play well and so forth, right? So that's how I look at my coaches and our staff at school. I look at my coaches as every one of them is different. They all think that their sport and their sport is the only sport that exists and that, it is important to them, which is very true, right? It's important to them, but to me, I have to make sure all of it has to be important to me. I have to be able to balance all of the sports, make sure that it's equity there that's involved and so forth. And sometimes they don't consider, sometimes the coaches and the staff don't consider those things because they're focused on what they need to focus on, which is okay. But those are the things that irk me. And like I have to overcome that part because as an administrator, you have to be the one that has to be able to understand all differences, right? And they tell teachers you have to be able to differentiate in a classroom. Well, yeah, coaches have to differentiate, and we as administrators need to be able to differentiate amongst our personnel, right? So we have to be able to see our personnel for kind of who they are, what they bring to the table, and we got to pick their strengths, get their strengths, get them to use their strengths to our advantage, and then work on their weaknesses. Um, and I'm terrible at it, Jake, because I'm just like, well, why can't you just do it? you know, and sometimes they can't, and sometimes they won't try. So I have to find ways to um, get them to trust me, to know that I'm leading them in the right direction. And that's what leaders do, right? Like we have to be able to work with what we're given. Um, so it anywhere I've gone, I've always been, when I first get there, everybody's like, oh gosh, she's a rule follower. You're not going to get anything by her. They don't want to approach me for anything because it's the standard yes or no answer and there's nothing else, right? And then when they get to know me, they're like, oh, she's much better one-on-one. In a group setting, she's not so much because she tells everybody the rules and that's what the rule is, right? But if you go in her office, you can actually talk to her. Sometimes they say, oh wait, she is human, right? So those are the things that like I continue to kind of work on every day because everybody is different. And with a staff, with 120 on staff, as far as teachers go, and then they're all in their separate little groups. You've got science, math, and so forth, right? And everybody's worried about their content and what they have to do in their content, and versus I have to worry about the whole. So I have to be able to kind of mesh people together and build those relationships, not just between me and them, but between each other so that we can work together for our school to operate. Um, And like I said before, like I have a love-hate relationship with the two people that are closest to me and that I need the most, my head custodian and my secretary. I have that love-hate relationships where they know that some days they just can't come. They said, "Oh no, she's in that mood, can't go see her." If they come, they don't know what's going to come out. So, and that is, it's always been a struggle for me. I'm getting better at it. Sometimes I have no filter. It's not sometimes, it's a lot of time I don't have filter. Um, but I hold people accountable for the things that they need to be accountable for, right? These are the rules that we have to follow, and we have to stay within those rules. You come outside those rules, then we're going to have problems, right? And it's not that we can't talk about it and work it out, but why are you stepping out of that box, or out of those set of rules? um, and then because I'm communicative and I'm organized and I try to be proactive about everything. If I gave you this information, why aren't you doing something about it, right? And now I got to hold you for accountable for not doing anything about it. And so that's a different Evanitta versus the Evanitta that is, come sit down, let's talk. You know, we can sort through it. So it's kind of a heckle and jive, thing, but like, but it's an everyday thing where I have to kind of walk away, compose myself, figure out how I'm going to say it nicely so that I don't make somebody cry. I mean, that's been the running joke ever where I've been. How long before, somebody cries? Evanitta's made somebody cry. Um, and it's not a nice thing, and it might be a joke, but like to me, it's not a nice thing because if I'm making you cry, I'm not building that relationship that I need to build with you in order for you to, for us to work together, right? Um, so yeah, it's one of the many weaknesses that I have as an athletic director, and with the multiple personalities that you have as on your staff as coaches, or if you're supervising others like I do with teachers, you really do have to build that relationship with them, and sometimes you kind of have to take that step back, think about what's happening before you respond, right? And um, it's that whole phrase that we talk about kids, like they don't know, they don't care what you know until they know you care, right?
Mhm.
If they don't think you care, they don't care about you, and they're not going to listen to you. um, so I always keep that in the back of my mind, that
Right.
sometimes I do those things that we do for kids, we also need to do for adults, to kind
Right.
of mesh it together.
Well, as I listen to you share, so many similarities between our personalities here. Um, you talk about, that love-hate relationship, and you mentioned this in one of your previous episodes. Um, I think you have obviously built a very positive relationship because you have those people in your life. Maybe they're personal or professional relationships, but you have that relationship, and they know, okay, well, right now, we might be, at loggerheads, we're disagreeing, but there's still the love, the respect, and so you can have that. It's with those individuals, as you mentioned, that you're when you're first getting to know them. uh, you do kind of have to, say, hey, this is who I am. And if you're the new sheriff in town, and if it's law and order, there's a reason for that. But as you get to know each other, both ways, they can see, okay, well, I understand why it's law and order. But hey, she's really a pretty cool person. So, you know,
I'm very upfront with it.
yeah.
I've learned to be upfront with it, where I say to them, I may come out as abrasive. I don't mean it that way.
Mhm.
It's just I'm a task oriented person, and there are things that we have to get done. And so, and
Yeah.
sometimes, yes, I am abrasive. I said it's nothing personal.
Right.
So, and sometimes it's bad to start a conversation that way, but I'm very upfront with it, and
Mhm.
so I say, and I say to them, I am human. I may not seem like it sometimes, but I am human. I make mistakes just like anybody else, right? I try to learn as we go, and I will do the best that we can. to service our students, right? And to me, the students are our customers. Without them, I don't have a job. And that's how I look at it, right? And so then I try to get people to understand, without our students, we don't have jobs. So we've got to be able to get through it together so that we can work for our students. I mean, and that's, I try to be as honest as possible with it, but again, it's something that I work at every day in order to build that relationship, to ensure that they trust me enough so that we can work together and to help our kids.
And you hit it right there on the head. Honesty that builds trust, and again, the personality is what it is. But as you build those relationships, you have that relationship, and it's that big circle of honesty, trust, relationship. Great stuff. Always enjoy talking with you, and appreciate you sharing with our audience. If one of them wanted to reach out, find out a little bit more about how you run the programs at HB Plant, what's the best way one of our listeners can get a hold of you?
Through email, it's Evanitta, Evanitta .Omensetter, Omensetter @hcps.net.
Evanitta Omensetter, HB Plant High School. Thanks again for sharing on All-Star AD, and all the best with the rest of the school year.
Thank you so much, Jake, for having me.
For listeners, we do this every single week, and we upload the Zoom videos to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening. Come back next week for another All-Star AD segment, and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Once again, we appreciate you listening to these segments, and they are all going to become a book, which is going to be coming out probably in late July, early August of 2023, called the All-Star AD. Before we go, we want to give a shout out to every one of our sponsors. As an athletic director, I used every single one of these products with one exception. That was Hometown Ticketing. I never got a chance to use it because I retired right as online ticketing was coming into vogue. But I've talked to hundreds of athletic directors across the country, and they all swear by Hometown Ticketing. So go to hometownticketing.com, check them out. Our other sponsors, Sideline Interactive. You heard me say before, we have a Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule that live web demo. Athletic Surveys. At my school, we use surveys for just about everything, for teachers, for coaches, for kids, for parents. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Let them create a custom survey for your school. Gipper.com. We promote every single one of our episodes using Gipper, and it's the go-to app for creating custom content for your school social media channels. Go to Gipper.com, mention the podcast, you'll get a nice little discount. Vital Signs Wall of Fame. The FIAAA's Hall of Fame is a Vital Signs Wall of Fame console. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Tell them you heard about it on the podcast. You'll get a nice discount. Snap Mobile is the parent company for Snap Raise, their fundraising platform. We use Snap Raise at our school with great success, and so can you. Go to snapraise.com. Start raising thousands of dollars. And Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle. As an athletic director, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com. Find out all the ways that they can help you, your school, your teams, your coaches, and your athletes. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of All-Star AD. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.